one lonely fan. And I know what we're looking at isn't actually a fan, but well, I don't think mine is either. So the image can stand. Every show, planned or unplanned, he shows. Identity is nothing more than the backwards law's friend that we just have to pretend are enemies. Don't think about an elephant doing a cannonball into a pool and it becomes the only thing you're able to recall. Put all of your effort into appearing different, yet you've made no memories to back up such a claim. Each day is the same, yet you're shaded or you're graded in the shade due to an overgrown past, never believing in any future until the present is wrapped in night. The sun's the only reason I'm alive, but it's too dense an idea to stare into a light so dense. Fragile minds are never too far behind fragile eyes, and a locked gaze is a great way to go blind. And here I am, mocking the blind, as if I didn't just admit sun staring is a huge waste of time. I guess I'm a fool. Or I guess I'm gullible and I don't like guessing. Because doing that over knowing is a fool's way to fall. And yet over-knowing doesn't fill you up to where you feel fulfilled. Dust off your spotlight and point it at a life with a leak. Give a huge speech about how they need to patch it and latch on to the path of the full glass we know they can be. And yet what each dickhead will miss about this obsession to fix, consisting of asking to lift the water in some half-arsed tip to an amount almost artistic in how it sits, will still drip. If you add more than it can take. I know when one is good, two must be great. That's why when you sit down for dinner, you eat 2 plates, two-faced. It still drips like this leak that you freakishly craved to fix. If your fix is ignoring that more doesn't mean bliss, it is a speakeasy of advice. You bury the same truth that was above ground, underground, and choose to ignore the signs pointing down that there's still some fucking proof that the carpet's wet. Leak or an overflow, you can care, or you can think, or you can just place your silly little fucking bet. No, listen. Can you listen for a minute? If you order a drink and your glass has a crack, your drink might leak through. When we see people living with a leak, we treat them like glasses. And we try to patch them up too. But promoting a good mood doesn't do what you think it does, because an overflowing glass drips even more onto the rug. As soon as you hate the person over the act that they have done, we all collectively lose and think we've all won. You haven't solved the problem. You've just changed its direction. You haven't solved the problem, you've just changed who gets backed. You haven't solved the problem, or, well, we'd be free from such a trap. You haven't solved a fucking thing if your minority wins, because you yourself call you a minority of all things. A grudge is one of the hardest feelings to choose to lose power to, but keeping it removes any chance of dealing with distance by powering through. If there is a gap in your speech, or if there is a crack in the floor, if there's any hierarchy or any smudged thoughts, you won't know where your voice stands. And that fight in yourself balloons itself to a real fight with real people, against real people, on real fucking land. Your desire to be equal might have grown in the right place, but to desire a sequel is to feed the chain that causes this stain on inspiring people. Life used to end with a coin flip. And I don't want to jinx it. But don't you think it's possible? We might be able to coin this end into a beginning that won't have to begin again. My one fan hides in the dark, in the back of my shows, and it shows. Identity is led by dormant minds who'd rather pointlessly die than think ahead. Modern life may as well be a synonym for a burden that's just learnt to be sturdy. I think it's too early for me to know that. It isn't nice that I can know that. I think I used to think hope had any reason to exist. But what if success was only created to give human ambition purpose? What if all of our identities are rifting with this cyst called the fate of Sisyphus? You want me to write about feeling empowered by what I believe in, but the majority of my identity since my epiphany is only being moulded by denting the things that I did used to take pride in believing. All I have found is that the more you learn, the less you want to know. The more you're here, well, just the more you want to go. The more you dream, the less that dream can grow. I can't think hope is just an empty box where its whole appeal is in how it's wrapped. Right? Either we desire minds who can think outside, outlike and outrhyme their own kind, or we praise vacancy because even if it's wrong or backwards or there is a better way, these are the people who deserve a raise because these are the people who will get in line without asking why and think that's okay. It's easier to call me a liar, but my young age doesn't deter from the fact that it is a cyclical fire that just burns too slow, so we all jump in to get it over with. Our framework is broken. Thinking is exhausting. But exhaustion isn't thinking. That's just doing, without asking why. And now that I have said that, and it is in your mind, can you name one person who isn't exhausted all the fucking time? Apathy is easier. Empathy saves lives. A new world is a world where we realise to stigmatise is to mock fire with a gaslight and spend more time looking inside and more time asking why. I wish my proof would do what I know it can do, but I've found the more I try to find the truth, the more I'm blindly following these lines that turn into sides of a circle. The circle tried to hide, and the shape that appeared as one line turns out to have an infinite number of straight lines, and I have to just double check it, only to sense that its start and end blend to be a checkered line waiting for the green light. But that's a lot to handle. And now my whole mind has no more money to spend. And I wish knowing stayed new, and we stopped this projected showing from going straight through the screen ruthlessly. But I think the truth is deemed by paralysed minds, too scared to dox how shocked they can be by truth's paradoxical reality of only having seamless seams. It seems the only way to live, and the only font that types your life that doesn't also work a 9 to 5 is one with all of the taunts and all of the flaunts, but the WHY is stripped. to make the keyboard light. No. The only way to never be left by this canopy of minds is to also and only never be right. This modern time shines with a dull line that you'll need to read way more than twice to understand and agree and believe. All right. So I present to you with all of my might the piercingly sharp blade of a blunt knife. I know my one lonely fan is always in the crowd, but he hides in darkness once the sun goes down, and the sun's the only reason I'm alive. On a stage with darkness for a crowd, there isn't anywhere to belong. And I've yet to come across a greater pain than never feeling okay. When nothing's wrong.